Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing this super easy map tumbler. As always, I make sure to put everything I use today into the description box below so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Today I am using a 24-ounce curved hogdle from the Stainless Depot company. I went ahead and I already prepped it and I primed it that Dreamy Lavender that I was just showing on the screen there. I really like to let my tumblers sit at least overnight after I spray paint them, just so that way I know that that spray paint is properly adhered to our tumbler before we get started. I'm going to be showing you guys 3 different types of paper. I'm going to use all 3 different types so that way you can see how it looks once it's glued down to the tumbler, and you can decide from there what kind of paper you'd like to use. So this first paper is just regular printer paper. I went ahead on to create a fabrica, and I found some of these map images. I'll make sure to put everything in the description box for you guys. And I just printed out on regular printer paper. The next one is basic map paper. So it's like thick, glossy paper. You can use anything for this. You can use pamphlets of places you've been. You can use a map of the state you live in. Whatever you guys want to do is completely up to you, but I'm going to be using this streetcar map that I'd gotten downtown Tampa. And then the last one is this set that I had gotten off of Amazon. So this is like for a junk journal. It has lots of really cool pieces of paper with different scenes on it. It also has a lot of different type of washi tape stickers, which I really like. I might have to go back and get some more of those. But this paper here is a little bit thicker than regular printer paper, so it's kind of like a medium weighted paper. And I'm just showing you here some more of those washi tape stickers. These things are fabulous. They form so well right over top of our paper that we're going to be gluing down here in just a minute. And to be completely honest with you guys, this was the hardest part, was picking out exactly what I wanted to put on here. There's so many cute things. So I picked a couple pieces of paper from out of that box from Amazon. I'm also going to pick stickers here in a minute. Then I'm going to go ahead and choose which ones I want to use from my actual map. So I'm going to choose Ybor City here, and I'm actually going to choose some of downtown Tampa as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those out of this pamphlet. And I'm going to go ahead and start shredding up the edges because I want it to look kind of torn up, kind of torn into pieces. That's kind of the look we're going for, and it's going to make it easier too when we go to kind of decoupage it down to our tumbler. So here I'm just showing you how you can either pull forward towards you, and it's going to give you that kind of more serrated, shredded look where you can kind of see the white of the paper in between, or if you pull away from you, it's going to give you more of a straight edge without that white poking through. But I kind of liked mine with it pulled towards me. I like that look of that extra white kind of poking through on the edges. So that's pretty much how I'm going to be ripping all of my paper. Or if you don't want that shredded look, it is absolutely okay to come through and cut with a pair of scissors around any type of flowers or states that you want to put on there. It is completely up to you because there is no right or wrong when it comes to making art. All right, so I have my printer paper there that I already ripped up. I have my map paper all ripped up, and I have some of that other stuff that I'd purchased, that junk journal stuff I had purchased off of Amazon over there as well. So I am ready to go. So the first thing I want to do is I want to come through and just kind of crinkle some stuff up, give it more of an antique look. So I'm going to take my map paper and I'm just going to squish it up. I'm going to ball it up. I'm going to go ahead and squish that up as best as I can, and then just kind of unfurl it and kind of smooth it out, and it's going to leave these little creases in it, just kind of adding to the texture of everything we have going here. Now we have all that done, and we're ready to start gluing our pieces of paper down. To adhere our paper to our tumbler, you just want to use a glue. So I'm going to be using glitter glue. I'll put that in the description, or use Mod Podge. So to get the glue on and make it nice and smooth, I have a little fluffy brush here, this is all they had at the Dollar Tree. I don't know where the Wet n Wild brushes went to. They have these little brushes now. So, and a little silicone squeegee tool as well. This is what it looks like now. It has a paddle on one side and the squeegee on the other. So if you've been recently, this is what we're working with here. But both those items are found in the makeup section at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to try to work in one section at a time. So first I'm going to start on this whole front section and then kind of make my way around, like let it dry a little bit and then keep moving, because this paper does get a little bit fragile once it gets smothered in our glue. So I'm going to be using the more black and white pictures from the Creative Fabrica that I had printed myself on printer paper. I'm going to use those first as my backdrop, so that way I can kind of come through and stack the more colorful pieces right over the tops of this. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up just a tad, so that way I can kind of get moving a little bit quicker with what I'm doing here. I want you guys to see it, but I also don't want it to move so slow, so. But as I got going, I just wanted to keep in mind that I didn't want to fully coat my tumbler and my map pieces. I just more or less wanted like segments of it covered with our map here and there, because there were still other things that I want to add, like some stickers and glitter and everything like that. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be fully covered in our map. You just want to place some pieces that you really like down here and there. So I got a couple of those smaller pieces glued down. Again, that's just kind of more for the back of what I want to do over top. I'm going to take one of my bigger map pieces. This is one of my main ones that I really want to make sure it gets on here. This is of downtown Tampa. I'm going to go ahead and coat the back of that piece of paper with a bit of my glue. I'm going to go ahead and get it lined up. Again, kind of ripping and going and tearing as I go, because it doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to go ahead and start getting that formed to the curves of this tumbler. And as you see right around the handle, I'm just kind of ripping it and pressing up and around. It should be nice and saturated with that glue, so that way it really helps out with sticking it down at this point here. So as I get going, I'm just going to fully fold it up underneath the bottom. If you do your bottoms, make sure you go ahead and come through and do this, and just kind of tearing and ripping apart pieces that you feel like might be a nuisance. So just go ahead and remove those pieces while squishing everything down. And another thing that really helps is once you get this saturated with your glue, it really softens up this paper, which is helpful, whenever you're trying to curve it around the curves, but you could accidentally rip it. So just be very careful as you go through and kind of get everything nice and doused with your glue, making sure it's nice and stuck down. So here with that thicker matte paper, I came through with my squeegee, which helped out tremendously. It slipped right over top of my matte piece, so that way I could make sure that this was completely covered with my glue, making sure that everything was completely adhered. Because if we don't get everything glued down nicely, once it has dried, you'll be able to see the spots that weren't glued down, and they'll kind of be like popped up. It's hard to explain if you've ever had it happen to you before, but it'll almost feel kind of hollow because it's kind of up rather than stuck down. So we definitely don't want that. We want everything nice and flat against the surface of our tumbler here. And here I wanted to show you that I accidentally ripped it. That's okay. I'm just going to come through and I'll patch it with another little piece of map, and nobody will ever know. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up my front half here. I'm going to let it dry up just a little bit after I get done kind of placing as much as I possibly can before I have to turn it. And then we'll go ahead and get started on the back side. All right, now that has dried a bit, we're going to go ahead and move around to the back side, doing the same exact thing that we did on the front, but around the back. So a few things I have to say is I absolutely love the squeegee for this. It works a lot better than the brush, so I highly recommend the squeegee over the brush when it comes to this, because it just made everything go a lot smoother. Now with the 3 different types of paper, the matte paper, the regular printer paper, and then kind of the medium weighted paper from Amazon, I have to say, obviously the matte paper works really great. I didn't have any issues with it. It formed so nicely to my tumbler. Great thing. Now the printer paper, it did the same thing as well. It formed great. The only thing with the regular printer paper was once I added the glue, it kind of started to leak that colorant out a little bit. But like I said, it wasn't too bad, but it did kind of make the color that was printed onto the paper just kind of come out just a tad. And you couldn't even tell, to be honest. I could tell, but you guys obviously probably can't even tell that it did that. And the medium weighted paper did fabulous, just like the matte paper, but I actually ended up not using too much of that particular paper because I was really into the map that I had and the stuff that I already pre-printed because I had the flowers and everything. So, but when I did use a couple pieces, and I didn't have any issues with that either. So either one, either the plain paper, the matte paper, or the medium weighted paper, no major issues. So for the handle, since I'm doing a handled tumbler here, I'm just going to choose a piece of my map that I wanted to have on here. I'm going to go ahead and trim that down to size. I'm going to go ahead and coat the top of my handle here with some glue, and then go ahead and place down the pieces that I would like on here. So like I said, I'm doing a little piece of a map here. So I'm just making sure that it's not going to go over. I don't want it to overlap. I just want it to be on the top portion. And then I'm going to come through and sprinkle a little bit of glitter underneath so that way I don't have to worry about kind of forming this too much. So I'm just going to make sure that I get it nice and smooth down to my handle as best as I can. Then I'll come through with a little bit of these flowers from off that one map that I have. And before I started, I made sure that I put a little bit of glue over top, and it really softens up that paper, like I said, which will help it form to the curves of this handle and around the bottom. But you don't want to add too much because it could become too soft and it will rip. So you just want to be very careful with that. So there we go. This is how mine is looking. Again, I kept in mind that I want to leave open some of that purple. I wanted to leave some gaps for stickers and glitter and everything. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry completely, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, it's completely dry, and now I'm ready to pick out some of those washi tape stickers. So again, those kind of stickers, there we go, came in with that kit from Amazon, and there's all kinds of stuff to choose from. I just wanted to make sure that kind of kept with the theme. I picked out a few things. I didn't use all of it, but I just wanted to pick out enough things to kind of give myself some options to pick from once I start applying it. Now, once I tried to peel off the backing from these, I was having a heck of a time. Okay, I was having a really hard time. So what I ended up doing was taking a piece of painter's tape and sticking it to the side that had the sticker on it and peeling it off of its backing, and there we go. Worked fabulous. Okay. Now these stickers are the same exact material as washi tape is made of, so hence, washi tape stickers, but they are super soft and form to all these little nooks and crannies that are on our tumbler, which is why I went ahead and applied these stickers to our base now. Like I said, I didn't use all the stickers I had picked out. I think I chose a couple cars that I ended up putting on here. Some clocks, because, time and all that. And I did put like some stamps and some luggage pieces on there as well. But again, the sky is the limit when it comes to however you want to design these. Now, after all our little map pieces, all our stickers, or whatever else you want to put on this tumbler is applied and fully dried, we're going to go ahead and move on to epoxying. And of course, before we epoxy, just as a precaution, I'm going to go ahead and give it a coating of my semi-gloss clear just to really make sure everything is nice and stuck down. Now I want my tumbler to have a little bit of a sparkle to it, of course. I want some glitter, so I'm going to go ahead and add this new color here. This is called Alfresco. This is an ultra fine additive, white additive, and I'm actually going to add two little pinches of this. Now usually when I have my sparkle dust, I'm like, a little bit goes a long ways, but I want it super sparkly this time, so two little dashes. And I'm going to go ahead and stir that up really good. Now into my cup here, that is 20 milliliters of epoxy. And after I have that stirred up really well, I'm going to go ahead and get started with applying this epoxy to my tumbler. When applying epoxy to a handled tumbler, I like to work right up against the handle on one side and then just make my way completely around till I get to the opposite side of the handle and go from there, making sure that I coat everything up really well. And then from there, I'll just take little fingerfuls of my epoxy so that way I don't get too much loaded up onto my handles and we get gloopiness all up inside of the handle or around the base of the handle where it meets the tumbler. And once I have that all loaded on nice and smooth, I'm going to go ahead and place that onto my turner, and I'm going to hit it up really good with my torch now because we are going to be sprinkling glitter on, and I don't want to do that after I apply the glitter. So do it before you apply your glitter. And the glitter I'm going to be using today is called Matilda. And you can find all the glitters that I'm using at socglitters.com if you would like to. So now I'm just going to take pinchfuls of that Matilda and just place it here and there, mainly in those areas where I had the purple showing. That's where I decided I wanted to add mine, just kind of give it a little bit more structure. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did keep my glove on my opposite hand just for this because I knew I was going to be doing this. Now I'm going to go ahead and come through and kind of tap down that glitter, making sure it's nice and sunk down for me and kind of removing any glitters off the handle that I feel like are going to be a nuisance because I did sprinkle a little bit of that glitter around the back side of that handle as well. Then we'll go ahead and let that finish curing on the turner. Once it is done curing, it did need a second coat over top. So I'm going to take another 20 milliliters of epoxy and place that over the top there. I'm showing you how there is raw glitter exposed, so I did go ahead and spray it down with my 2x Ultra again just to make sure. And look at all the pretty sparkle in there. Now again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and apply another coating of epoxy over top here. Do the same thing, get that all smoothed down, starting at one side of my handle, working my way around to the other side of the handle so that way I don't get it too gloopy around the handle. I'm going to go ahead and let that cure, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that that has cured, I'm going to go ahead and come through and trim up my rim. I'm also going to hit it up with my sanding block a bit because some of those paper pieces did kind of poke up just a bit through the epoxy. So I'm just going to make sure that I smooth that down the best that I can. And when you're working with a handled tumbler, you don't want to sand that down too much because you could risk sanding all the way back down to the silver, and we definitely don't want that. So just be very, very careful when working around your handle. And if it doesn't need sanding, then don't touch it at all. Okay, we still have a couple more coats of epoxy to put over top of it. So if you feel like it could get smoothed out in that process, then just let it be and let it get coated then. So for the decal that I'm placing onto the tumbler, I went ahead and I found this right off Creative Fabric. It comes exactly like this. The only thing you're going to have to do is apply your offset if you would like an offset. Now for the offset, I'm using a textured gold metallic vinyl, and then obviously for the main portion of the decal, I'm using a purple that just like a lavender that kind of matches the base of my tumbler here. To get my decal nice and centered on the front of my tumbler, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on. This is a screw top lid, and it happens to have these two little flaps on the side, and all I'm going to do is line up those two flaps lined up right with the handle, so that way I know exactly where to place that decal. So there we go. And now right around the front of where I want my decal to go, there is a seam right there. I'm going to get it a little bit closer. You'll see that seam. That is dead center of our tumbler there, and that's exactly where I'm going to place my decal. So the center of this decal is right where the A in travel and O and more are. So that's about center for this particular decal. And I'm just going to go ahead and burnish down my offset. I like to do it separate. It's easier for me. Then I'll go ahead and apply the top portion of my decal to it. Now, I forgot to mention, I did have a little gold heart that I had cut out already, and I just placed it right in the E, so that little heart does not come on the decal, okay? So if you want the little heart, you're gonna have to add it yourself or slice it out yourself, okay? I'm just letting you guys know. But all that's left to do now is add our last finishing coats of epoxy, and she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.